We all hear it, right? Knowledge is power. It's everywhere.
It really is. Kind of a default saying.
But what if that common wisdom isn't just a bit off? What if it's actually fundamentally misleading?
Yeah, what if knowledge just by itself isn't really power at all? That's pretty much the core idea in the source material we're digging into today.
Okay.
We're doing a deep dive into, a classic text on achievement, focusing on this one chapter about specialized knowledge, and it really pushes back against knowledge as power.
It definitely made me rethink things. So for this deep dive, our mission is to unpack why just knowing stuff, general knowledge, isn't the key.
Right.
We need to figure out what kind of knowledge the source says is valuable.
Yeah.
And crucially, how it needs to be organized and, used to become actual power for achieving your goals, whatever they might be.
Exactly. And the source lays out some really compelling examples.
Look forward to those.
Because the key distinction right from the start is that knowledge isn't the end game, it's just potential.
Potential power. Okay, let's get into it. So the source starts by drawing this really sharp line between general knowledge and specialized knowledge.
It does, and it doesn't mince words. It basically says general knowledge, doesn't matter how much you have, is of but little use in the accumulation of money.
Wow, okay, so professors, for instance,
Yeah.
people with tons of general knowledge.
It's exactly the example it uses, encyclopedic knowledge, right. But the source points out, maybe a little bluntly, that most professors don't have a lot of money to show for it.
That feels, deliberately provocative, doesn't it? These brilliant people holding all this information.
And the source says, yeah, but it's not translating into wealth. So why?
What's the missing link?
Well, according to this text, it's that educational institutions, they often teach knowledge accumulation, but not how to organize it or how to use it. Through practical, definite plans of action aiming at a specific goal, like building wealth or a career.
So knowledge is just raw material, like owning a pile of bricks doesn't make you a house builder.
That's a great analogy. Knowledge only becomes actual power when it's organized into plans and aimed at a definite end. General knowledge is having all the tools, maybe, but no blueprint and no idea how to use them.
Whereas specialized knowledge is having the right tools and the know-how and the plan.
Precisely.
Okay, this leads into something else fascinating, how the source redefines being educated. It's not about how much you know, is it?
Not at all, not in the way we usually think. The source defines an educated person not by degrees or memorized facts, but by their ability to develop their mind to get whatever they want or its equivalent without stepping on anyone else's rights.
So it's about capability, resourcefulness.
Exactly, not just hoarding information.
And the example used to illustrate this, Henry Ford. It's brilliant.
Oh yeah, it's a classic story. During World War I, a newspaper called him an ignorant pacifist. So he sued them.
Right. And in court, the opposing lawyers tried to prove he was ignorant by asking him trivia, right?
Yeah, things like who was Benedict Arnold? Or, random facts about history, stuff you'd learn in school.
And Ford's response is legendary.
It really is. He apparently just leans forward, points, and basically says, why would I clutter my mind with that stuff? He goes on, I have electric push buttons in my office. I push the right button, and I can summon people who do have the specific knowledge I need for my business.
Boom. Mic drop moment in court, basically.
Pretty much. And the source argues this totally demolished their case. It didn't prove Ford was ignorant. It proved he was educated in the truest sense the text describes.
Meaning, he knew where to get the knowledge he needed.
And how to organize it into plans to build his empire. He didn't need it all in his own head.
Like Andrew Carnegie, right. Famous for saying he didn't know much about the technical side of steel.
But he knew how to gather experts, his mastermind group, and direct their specialized knowledge.
So the takeaway for you listening is huge, really. You don't have to be a walking encyclopedia.
Not at all. Success, this source suggests, comes from organizing and directing knowledge, whether it's yours or accessible through others.
Think about Edison. Ford limited formal schooling, but massive success.
They knew how to apply this principle.
Okay, so specialized knowledge is key, and you can get it via others, like Ford did. But if you need to get some yourself, how does the source say you should go about it? the right way.
It lists a few main avenues, your own experience in education, obviously.
Makes sense.
Then, experience in education through cooperation with others, that's your mastermind alliance again.
Okay.
Colleges and universities, of course, public libraries, books, periodicals, and then special training courses like night schools or home study.
Now, the source circles back to its critique of formal education here, though.
Yeah.
It says degrees often just represent miscellaneous knowledge.
Yeah, and that they aren't always valued as highly in the real world as specialized applied knowledge. The value is in the using, not just the having.
It talks about a changed world needing specialists.
Right. Demand for specific skills, business grads, engineers, writers, technicians, people who can do specific things.
But then it adds another layer, which I found really interesting. It's not just about the technical skill.
No, exactly. It quotes a big industrial company saying they look for qualities of character, intelligence, and personality far more than specific educational background.
And that Columbia University person, Mr. Moore, saying students active outside pure academics have a most decided edge.
So the specialized knowledge is necessary, but maybe not sufficient. It needs to be combined with, well, other things. Drive, personality, the ability to apply it.
Which brings us to the surprising point about paid training, like correspondence schools.
Yes. This part really stands out. The source argues that anything acquired without effort and without cost is generally unappreciated.
And it actually calls the freeness of public schools an astounding weakness, which sounds harsh, but what's the reasoning?
It's not saying free education is inherently bad. The argument is that because it's free, it can be, well, taken for granted, maybe not pursued with the same level of commitment.
Okay. Whereas paying for training,
Especially if there's like a system checking up on you, it forces a certain self-discipline. You've got skin in the game. You're more likely to finish what you begin because you paid for it.
makes sense. The author even shares a story about that, right? Paying for an advertising course he didn't really want to do.
Yeah, he paid reluctantly, but because he'd paid, he felt compelled to finish it. And that training, that specialized knowledge, ended up being worth much in the form of money earned later on.
And employers apparently see this too. They value employees taking home study courses.
The source claims they give it greater weight, yeah, because it shows ambition, self-discipline qualities needed for leadership. It signals you're willing to invest time and effort to get the specialized knowledge to advance.
It's seen as a sign of good judgment, not just, wanting a raise.
Right. Sound business sense.
So, for you listening, the question becomes, how deliberate are you being about getting the specific, specialized knowledge you need? Are you investing the effort to make it stick, to make it applicable?
Yeah, good question. Now let's shift a bit and look at how people actually applied these ideas. The source gives some great case studies, especially people navigating tough times like the Depression.
These are really powerful. First up, Stuart Austin Weir. Construction engineer, market dries up. What does he do?
He doesn't just panic. He takes inventory of himself, decides he needs a whole new field. Law. But here's the key. He didn't just dabble.
No.
He was over 40, married, but he chose highly specialized law courses. He focused intensely, finished a 3-year degree in 2 years,
Wow.
passed the bar, and built a practice so successful he was turning clients away. It shows that changing path requires targeted, focused acquisition of new specialized knowledge.
Total commitment.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's the grocery salesman, loses his job in the Depression, had some bookkeeping skill.
Right, basic experience. So what does he do? Takes a special course in accounting, gets up to speed on the latest equipment, and then, the crucial part...
He had an idea.
Exactly. He combines the new knowledge with imagination. His idea: offer accounting services to small merchants who maybe couldn't afford a full-time person for a small fee.
Okay, makes sense.
But here's the imaginative twist. He operates out of a portable office in a truck. He takes the service to them.
Huh. That's brilliant. Specialized knowledge plus imagination plus a practical plan.
You got it. And that business grew, became a fleet of trucks, a staff, and the source notes his income tax ended up being almost 10 times that of the merchant he used to sell groceries for.
Amazing. Shows how knowledge needs that creative spark to become a real opportunity.
Definitely. But maybe the most detailed and honestly inspiring example is the woman who helped her son.
Oh, right. Her son finishes college but can't find work. Unable to find a market for his services, as the source puts it.
A common problem, even today. But his mother, the source says, had keen imagination. She didn't just tell him to try harder.
What did she do?
She created something called a prepared plan to market personal services. Basically, a super detailed job application package, but way beyond a normal resume.
How detailed are we talking?
Well, first, she sent her son to the library every day to gather data, researching specific companies, understanding their business, their needs, their methods.
Okay, serious homework.
The final plan book was nearly 50 pages long.
50 pages. For one job application. What could possibly be in there?
His background, skills, experience, sure. But the key part was a description of the exact position he wanted.
Okay.
And a word picture, the source calls it, of the exact plan he would use to fill that position. He even included suggestions for the employer on how they could best use his skills.
Wow. So he wasn't just saying, hire me. He was showing them exactly how he'd provide value based on research and his own specialized knowledge.
Precisely. Combining his knowledge, the research knowledge, and her imaginative plan into a highly organized, targeted pitch.
It took weeks of work, Rep.
Several weeks of intense effort. But the payoff, pretty incredible.
What happened?
He got the job at the first interview, at a salary he proposed himself. And he started not at the bottom, but as a junior executive.
Incredible. And the source's take on this is pretty dramatic.
It is. It claims this plan clipped off no less than 10 years of time he would have required to get to where he began had he started at the bottom and worked his way up.
10 years saved.
No.
Which leads to a really important warning in the text, doesn't it? About starting at the bottom.
Yes, a strong warning. The source argues against starting at the bottom if you can possibly avoid it. Why? Because the view from the bottom is often discouraging. It can kill ambition.
You get stuck in a rut.
Exactly. It creates a habit of just routine day-to-day tasks instead of fostering the habit of looking around, seeing the bigger picture, spotting opportunities for advancement.
Whereas starting a bit higher helps you form the habit of looking for those opportunities.
That's the idea. You're already thinking more strategically.
Okay, which connects to the story of Dan Halpin. He did start in a job, not to his liking, selling hearing aids on commission.
Yeah, the source even says anyone could start in that sort of job. Pretty low rung.
So how did he avoid that bottom rung trap and rise so quickly?
Performance. Simple as that, but executed exceptionally. He put so much into that commission job, inspired by Knute Rockne's winning attitude, apparently, that he made an outstanding record, just blew the doors off expectations, and that excellence got him noticed.
By who?
A competitor, Mr. Andrews of Dictograph. He heard about this guy smashing sales records and sought him out. Hired him as sales manager.
Just based on performance in that lowly job.
Yep. And Halpin didn't stop there. He quickly became vice president and general manager. He didn't let the starting point define his trajectory. He used it as a launch pad by excelling.
So he didn't start high, but he didn't settle into the habits of the bottom rung either.
Exactly. He performed his way out and up. These stories all point to the same thing. Success isn't luck.
Right, it's strategic knowledge acquisition.
Combined with imagination, solid planning, positioning yourself well.
Putting in the focused effort. Doing a thing well never is trouble, as the source quotes.
And leveraging connections or getting noticed. And underlying it all, the source insists success and failure are largely results of habit.
Okay, building on that really powerful example of the woman and her son's plan, the source suggests something pretty bold. A whole new profession.
Yeah, focused specifically on marketing personal services.
Why now? Why did the source see a need for this?
Changing economic times, it says, and the sheer volume of money that changes hands for personal services more than almost anything else, that woman's success with her son basically provided a template.
So she turned her imaginative solution into a business model.
Pretty much. The source says she now has a staff preparing these attractive briefs or detailed plan books for other people, helping them market their skills.
And her fee is tied to their success.
Often a percentage of the increased pay she helps her clients get.
But it's crucial, isn't it, that this isn't just spin, not just fancy packaging for the same old service.
Absolutely critical. The source emphasizes that her professional secret is ensuring the employer actually receives full value for that extra money they're paying.
So it's about demonstrating genuine worth, not just demanding more pay.
Exactly. Positioning the person's specialized knowledge and potential so the employer sees the clear ROI.
The source even sketches out the team you'd need for this kind of business, applying the mastermind idea again.
Yeah, like a decent writer with some advertising or sales sense, someone good at making things look professional, typing, layout, and someone who can actually go out and get clients.
It definitely makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Even if you wouldn't start that business. How well are you marketing your own skills, your own specialized knowledge right now?
Good question for everyone listening.
Which brings us full circle, back to the source's final take on knowledge versus ideas. Specialized knowledge is essential. It's back of all ideas. But then comes a twist again.
Right. The surprising claim that specialized knowledge is actually among the most plentiful and the cheapest forms of service which may be had.
Cheapest, plentiful. Like those university payrolls again, or just experts being available.
That seems to be the implication. The knowledge itself, the expertise, is out there and relatively easy to access if you know where to look.
But ideas. Ideas are the scarce resource.
Ideas are less common, yes. And the real demand, the real opportunity, is for people who can take that available knowledge and combine it with something else.
And that something else is?
Imagination. That's the key ingredient.
The source calls it the one quality needed to combine specialized knowledge with ideas in the form of organized plans designed to yield riches.
Yep. Imagination is the catalyst.
So the final thought the source leaves us with is pretty stark. The idea is the main thing, the specialized knowledge you need to make it happen. That's relatively easy to find, just around the corner, any corner.
Powerful stuff.
So quite a journey we've taken. We started by questioning that old saying, knowledge is power.
Right. Understanding its only potential power.
Then we saw how specialized knowledge, but only when combined with imagination, organized plans, smart positioning, and often leveraging others, becomes that power.
And we looked at those examples, people switching careers, starting businesses, leapfrogging up the ladder by applying these principles.
So the key takeaways for you listening. Knowledge alone, not enough. It needs organization and direction into plans.
Being truly educated in this context means knowing how to find and use the knowledge you need, not just collect it.
Specialized knowledge is vital, yes, but the source actually frames it as more accessible than the rarer qualities of imagination and idea generation.
And applying that knowledge via detailed plans, tapping into others' expertise, building positive habits like looking for opportunity, and marketing yourself effectively, these are all crucial parts.
Plus that warning about the start at the bottom trap. It's not just about pay, it's about the habits you form. Planning can literally save you years.
And finally, the ability to effectively package and market specialized skills your own or helping others is highlighted as a major opportunity.
So why does all this matter to you right now? Are you just gathering info, or are you actively organizing what you know into definite plans?
Do you know where to get the specific, specialized knowledge you need for your goals? Are you making space to use your imagination to connect dots in new ways?
Because the source leaves us with this really provocative idea. The idea is the main driver. The knowledge is out there, waiting.
What's the idea simmering inside you right now? What's waiting for you to grab that available specialized knowledge, combine it with your imagination, and forge it into a real, actionable plan?
The potential to achieve whatever riches means to you. It might be closer than you think, just waiting for your imagination and your plan.